many small businesses don't even consider having a website, mini app, or they purchase basically subscription to a ready mini app and they just personalize it. Websites are a bit of a thing of the past. Websites are more B2B, big organizations and small business doesn't even consider that. I think the future of consulting is the interaction, because clients are already also, tired of the whole AI. They can't stay in AI 8 hours a day, every day, and speaking to you and having you explain and simplify what's happening and having that human connection, they're going to value it more and more.
What's something Western marketers completely misunderstands about the Chinese digital behavior?
Chinese market is full of their own brands that they are the happiest with. They don't need Western luxury or Western quality anymore because they've gotten there. They're there. GEO is not different tactics than SEO. It's the same tactics. The strategy is different.
Welcome back to the Agency Insider Show, where we talk to the brightest minds shaping marketing across the world. I'm your host, Navneet Kaushal. Today's guest is someone whose work I've been following on LinkedIn and elsewhere, Natalia Witczyk. She's an international SEO consultant, speaker, and strategist who has helped global brands grow across market, culture, and languages. Natalia, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a huge pleasure.
Yeah, so let's talk about your journey and international SEO mindset. You have built a reputation as one of the top international SEO consultants. So how did you get started in this niche, and what drew you into cross-border SEO rather than into local or national SEO?
Well, I think I started more because people saw this in me than I knew that's going to be my path, because languages was always my hobby. And in different SEO events, when I met international people and I said a few words in their language, they were like, "Oh, do you do international SEO?" And I heard it so often. I thought maybe that's my path, because that's the hobby I can combine and the professional approach. So I think it's just been consistently, when I decided that's it, I just stuck to that. And it's been great, yeah. And I think with cross-border, it's really having that international mindset. So the more you travel, the more you actually connect to internet and see how it works, and you look over people's shoulder when they Google stuff, and you try to gauge as much as possible how the international aspect looks like.
Okay, right. So it's not because you also love travel, because people say international.
It helps, but also I think the first step was because I started in SEO in the UK. And originally I'm from Poland. So already I was learning about SEO in a completely different market than my own. So I was always comparing what I learned in the UK and how my career was progressing there with Polish influencers in SEO, Polish resources. So I already had two markets I was exposed to very well. And then when I moved to Spain, and then when I moved to China, I just kept adding that experience, which is so helpful.
Right. Now, a lot of people, when people, including me, always thought international SEO and they will imagine language tags and href lang and we are done with it. Now, the real work I know is so much deeper: culture, search behavior, expectation. So how would you describe what makes international SEO fundamentally different from a regular SEO?
So first of all, if you are serious about your international SEO, you split your projects by markets you are targeting. So you literally split your resources, reporting, your mindset, your tasks, your priorities, your everything. You split it into every single market. And this way, you already are treating every market like a separate situation, separate set of issues, separate set of recommendations. Now, it is fair to say that if you deal with one domain and you have subfolder structure for every of the markets, and it's a SaaS project or something super scalable that's pretty much the same in every single language and country, you might have a huge overlap, but already just the fact you've split it up changes the way you approach this, and you'll always find something unique per market that can be done differently. And then if you deal with a product that is really localized, and maybe a product name change happens because with different languages you name your products differently, or maybe you have unique offers and unique style of communication in every market, then that's an extra layer of differentiation. So essentially, it's just really making sure you're thinking on the international level and not just globally. And then you're not on the surface. You scratch the surface and you go deep.
Okay. Now, you have worked with so many markets, Spain, UK, Poland, now China. What's one pattern that most brand gets completely wrong when they expand globally?
Oh, that's a great question, because that happens so often. So many websites think that the same strategy, if they just translate it automatically, will work. And I know international SEO people say it have been saying it for like 20 years, but it's still the truth. You need to have your keyword research done in the market you're targeting. Otherwise, you're just translating, you're not really SEO optimizing. And the moment you sit down and you think about search behavior and the search, results that your users see in that given market, you change, you shift, and you make optimization so much different. I'm not against automated translations, because in some cases, in some projects, they make sense. But I always recommend adding the SEO native speaker layer on top of that. So I've worked with some markets, but I also have collaborators from many, many markets that are native speakers from the language in that region, and they make the keyword research and the last touches to every translated content. If we are serious about international SEO, they have to be there. That has to be part of the process.
Okay. Let's talk about the life and reality of an international SEO consultant, which of course is you. Now, for SEOs who are watching this, who dream of becoming international consultant, what does the actual day-to-day look like for you?
Okay, so I split my life between my base, which is in Barcelona in Spain, and then moving around and traveling. So for the last 6 months, literally until last week, I was based in China. And in many cases, when you are a consultant and you have clients depending on you, you might be terrified of going and asking your clients if that's okay if you're going to change time zones. Is it okay if you take weeks off and you're actually offline? Because we are terrified of saying to our clients, I'm not there for you, because we were afraid we're going to lose them, right? But I think it's so important to tie your personal goals with your professional goals and have a really consistent idea about what you want to achieve and why. And then when you communicate that and your clients see the value in it, they're not going to protest. So when I was moving to China, I was really terrified I'm going to lose clients, because I'm going to tell them, look, I'm moving away for 6 months, 7-hour difference with Europe, a connection with the internet will be different. I might have trouble connecting on our regular calls. Are you okay with this? And every single client said, yes, I'm okay with that. Let's continue. Just because they knew I'm actually expanding my international knowledge. And they understood I'm doing it for ambition, for growth, which they want in a consultant. They want someone who's keen to learn all the time. And some clients have some relationship with Asia and China and were interested in like particular learnings I can bring. And others were just happy I'm learning about digital trends. And I can bring some nuggets that are still not very common in Europe, for instance. And I'm going to go to all the conferences in Asia that I might just learn more. So I think it's the framing of why you do things, and also standing behind us, behind yourself, behind that idea. So when you stand behind your own kind of story and why you're doing something, your clients will be happy with that, and they will give you the flexibility you need. So don't be afraid to ask and go for that dream. I can really recommend that.
Right. So here you have it for all the SEOs watching. Now, how do you handle markets where you are not fluent in the language, but you still need to advise on search behavior, content, UX, messaging? So how does you overcome that barrier?
That's actually a great question, because I recently started to work with China in China, and I'm not fluent in Chinese. I'm learning, but the learning path is 10 years. I'm not going to just become fluent overnight, So I would never, ever dare to give on-page advice for Chinese content, right? That's not my expertise. But I think it's really important to know your strengths and know who you can collaborate with when you need the native speaker level in a language you don't speak. And for example, with European languages, it's a bit easier, because it's most of the languages are in Latin character and some are in Cyrillic. But on the UX level, design level, template level, the differences are minuscule. You still have longer words in Spanish than in English, for instance, but it's not totally off. Now, anywhere you go, each direction, you get different alphabets and different encoding and different template necessities. Sometimes the script is written from the opposite way than European languages, right? You have to understand those basics, this common kind of understanding. As an international SEO, you have to understand seasonality in markets you work in, and kind of have this global idea that the world is not as monochrome as we sometimes believe it is, right? But then you always depend on the professionals that are hands-on recommending the parts you cannot take care of. And yeah, that's just trusted network.
Okay. And what were the biggest challenges when you first started taking clients from different continents or different countries with different languages?
So my first big challenge was totally internal one. I was just underselling myself. Coming from Eastern Europe, maybe I didn't feel I can compete in US, or I cannot charge the same amount of money as some people I know that work in the Western markets. I always felt like I have accent in English, so maybe they don't believe my English skills are good enough to run an SEO campaign. So the issues were here. And it took me a long time, and I'm always working on it because it's always work in progress, just to set that aside and understand that if they hire me, they don't care about my accent. And they don't care about, where I originally come from, because my experience now in Spain and UK has proven to work, right? So I think it's setting your goals and also believing in yourself is hard. But then if you go to international conferences, which we both do, that's how we met, you might get people who actually, champion you. I had people sometimes tell me, now you have to increase your prices. You're not charging enough. And the more you hear that, the more you start to believe in yourself. And then hopefully one day you'll become the person who says that to the next guy, right? Because you realize some people undercharge, don't frame their services as they should to actually make it that much more expensive and profitable for them. So I think, yeah, it's finding good people around you that will be that voice for you and be that voice for others.
Okay. That is actually right. I do end up giving same advice to quite a lot of people. So you remind me of those things, right?
We can give advice to others, but it doesn't always mean we have it when we make decisions for ourselves. It's so much easier to be empathetic towards the other ones than our own. So it's always good to remind ourselves, right, to do what we preach.
Right. Now, let's jump into our segment, which many of the listeners would be interested to, is digital marketing in China. Now, you have spoken about China's digital ecosystem in several of your talks. And for the audience, can you explain how marketing works in a world without Google, without Meta, without the channels we all use every day?
Yeah, China is fascinating. So my reason to move there was to learn about such a different system and hopefully pick up on some trends that will help me understand the future of SEO in our ecosystem, because China is typically quite ahead as it comes to some of the trends. And what's really different in China is that the main search engine is Baidu, and there's a couple of other smaller search engines, but that's still the main strong player. However, for many years, they've done what SEOs doing Google SEO complain of now, which is kept pushing organic results away, replacing them with ads. The SERPs are very cluttered. They promote their own products heavily. And in China, the competition rules and the unfair competition commissions don't operate the same way as we see in US or EU, where they intervene and try to make Google bump down their own products. So in Baidu, that does not happen. Baidu's heavily promoting their own version of Wikipedia, own version of video, own version of forums, whatnot. And so essentially users are kind of unaware that you can still do SEO for Baidu. And that's true. Baidu SEO is way smaller and way less impactful than we see in Google. So any digital marketing agency operating in China typically has got small SEO department and big ads department, and they work in parallel. Typically, SEO is just securing the top priority terms, not even working on top of the funnel, you know, that's just impossible to get to, or unless you are already doing well, then you can obviously tailor what you already achieved, but it's extremely hard. However, user journey in China looks totally different. So when we think of search, that's only a small part of how users interact with online content, because WeChat is such a huge player. WeChat being kind of precursor of what we know as WhatsApp in the West, but way more expanded. So think about WhatsApp on steroids, because WeChat is payment platform, social media platform, video platform, e-commerce platform. And within the WeChat app, you can install what's called mini apps, not even install, load them. You don't need to pre-install anything. And that's how brands communicate with their users. They just make sure they're present on WeChat, and when users scan the QR code, which QR codes are everywhere in China, they get to not even a website, because they are not websites, they are mini apps, mini programs for that given brand to order food, to, you know, any loyalty programs, any promotions, and then they can subscribe as well. So that's how brands then communicate. So it's really interesting, because that's been happening in China for many years. It's not even new. But the new bit is that we now in the West realized that TikTok is a big thing, and it is, some people call it TikTok SEO. I know TikTok is it still banned in India?
Yes, it is still.
Maybe, hopefully, with return of the connection flights between China and India, next step is unblocking TikTok, who knows?
Hopefully.
But yeah, TikTok in many markets is now the trend for TikTok SEO. Some people say it's the next step. Well, so yeah, China has done that already a couple of years ago, and it's nicely intertwined with inbound and outbound marketing, because it's both, right? Because you subscribe to those channels that you've connected with, and also it's a nice way how offline and online mix, because that QR code is typically in a physical location, either it's print or it's on the window or it's on the counter where you order your coffee. So it's very, very smooth transition from offline to online, which I also think it's something that we Google people will have to do more and more with how everything is shifting and how less clicks we get. We're going to have to attract traffic or interactions, because it's not even traffic, right? You don't have a website there. We're going to have to attract it in a different way, leveraging offline. So that's China in a nutshell, simplifying loads, because obviously there's so much to talk about.
Right, it is so much. So practically, the brands have lesser website and more apps there?
Yeah, absolutely. Many small businesses don't even consider having a website. Mini app, or they purchase basically subscription to a ready mini app, and they just personalize it. So almost WeChat mini apps would be considered like CMSs in a way, that you don't have to build it from scratch and have a developer. There's easier way. There are services that offer that on a monthly basis, like subscription for a WeChat app. So yeah, so websites are a bit of a thing of the past. Websites are more B2B, big organizations and small business doesn't even consider that.
And is WeChat, is there a WeChat SEO as well, or there is SEO is not much out?
So yeah, there is a very basic level WeChat SEO, which you could probably compare to local SEO, because it's often location based, especially if you're looking for like products and services in your area. There is a huge part of the algorithm that's related to where you're based, but there's also user interactions, opinions, reviews. So yeah, very much aligned with local SEO mindset. However, it's way harder to get reasonable data. So you're not optimizing for positions like we know it in SEO, because it's just impossible to do there.
Okay. And so what's something Western marketers completely misunderstands about Chinese digital behavior?
Oh, that's a really good one. So I think it's really worth mentioning that a couple of years ago, there was a huge boom of Western brands entering China. And that was like the next expansion model. And they would invest in a website for Chinese market, and maybe they would hire a local agency to do some SEO, maybe ads, and that's done. And I think many Westerners still think that's what's happening, but Chinese market is full of their own brands that they are the happiest with. They don't need Western luxury or Western quality anymore because they've gotten there. They're there, right? So just the fact that the brand is Western and invest some money on some PR is not enough. And you know, pasting a dragon on any design doesn't make products China friendly. You know, it used to be the case in the very beginnings where China was just growing exponentially as it comes to the money people had to spend. But now we're entering in a quite big crisis with some unemployment issues and some demographic issues that will have to have an impact on any market. So now what Chinese companies do is they go west and they build website quickly and they expand and they have the the logistics sorted, and they just go for the Western markets the way that Western markets still think could go for China. So I think the tables have turned, and now it's finding the way, if you want to expand to China, you have reason for it, how to actually make it unique and worthy of Chinese clients so they are interested. Like Western, let's say, pride of, oh, my product is just great, so it's going to work. It's not enough.
Okay. Now, in your opinion, what's innovation or tactics from China could Western marketers learn from, especially in UX, personalization, or AI-driven recommendations?
Oh, I think the QR code has to stay and it has to be used better. I think the one thing I've learned is that every single business card in China has got a WeChat QR code printed. So it's so easy to connect to people. No one is typing numbers anymore, you know? And I think that should be expanded way further. I think print and display ads in like cities will become a QR code based. I think you will pay a lot of money to get people to navigate to your website. Or even, it's a very simple practice, but it works. In Chinese ads, you get a small printed search box, and they tell you where to search and what to search for to find that specific product that they are advertising. So it's also cutting on the mental overload, the cognitive overload that the users are suffering from. And I think China has been first to do it because Chinese public space is just full of inputs, full of light, and it's just a lot. When you first arrive there, you're just overwhelmed. So brands have to find a way to simplify the cognitive load that comes with their ads and make it so easy for the user to just go and convert. So I think it's about time that our communications get simplified and get to the point. And sometimes, even the first step for any SEO strategy, which is finding the top business keywords, can be so hard because the clients don't understand. They have to simplify what they're saying and make it sound the way users will actually search for it, right? I think that will be crucial for any markets that wanna learn from China. Simplify and make it so easy for your conversion to happen. It just happens more often.
Okay. And so, I mean, you mentioned a lot of things which seems West is behind. Are there any other certain areas, e-commerce, UX, of course, super apps like WeChat, everybody's behind. But is there any other areas which West is behind in certain areas which you think lacking back?
Oh, I would say payment methods.
Okay.
It's still, I mean, Stripe has revolutionized the way we do e-commerce, and it's easier and easier every time. But the simplicity of mobile payments anywhere in China is just super surprising, because you go to the smallest village and you buy from a local lady who's selling honey. She has she has a garden there and she's got her own bees, and she will accept mobile payments. She doesn't take cash. And I think that step will happen eventually, because cash is becoming more and more obsolete, especially after COVID, when there was the hygiene topic on top of convenience, right? And then there are still countries that are not adapting mobile payments as easily as others. For example, anytime I go to Germany, I'm surprised how often you still have to pay cash. And you would think, developed country, you'd pay with card everywhere. But I think card is going to have to be pushed away because the transactions are too expensive. You have to register for a terminal, which in some countries is just expensive and difficult to do. So I think mobile payments will be the next natural step, and hopefully systems will get more and more integrated So one-click checkout will just become a reality for every business. Yeah, I think that's the biggest topic.
Okay. The same thing happened after COVID. The QR code thing and the pay by mobile really took off in India, and I mean we hardly deal in cash anymore. So it's everywhere. You go,
Right.
you have a roadside vendor. They all have a QR code. You just scan it and pay. So it's something not as expanded as China, but I think in India it's getting quite popular as well.
Yeah, and I think there's no way back. Users got used to it. Companies took that digital step, and it's gonna only go further and further.
Right.
And that's for everyone's
Right.
convenience, you know.
Yes. Now, no longer is the case when I land into a country and I have to look for a currency conversion. Honestly, I haven't done it for ages now. It's maybe to the US, but outside US, I don't think I've been doing any currency conversions.
Right, so convenient and hard to believe. We used to do all those difficult things to travel, and now it's just you just arrive. No
Right.
preparation. You don't have to Google anything before you just land, and it's
Right.
just
You don't
easy.
even need a SIM. It's all eSIM, so nothing is needed at all. No.
Exactly.
Right. I understand.
Total
Yes.
luxury.
Right. Now let's go into a little bit more in depth of international SEO and go into a little bit of strategic international SEO. So when you take on a multilingual or a multi-country project, what's your first diagnostic step?
Oh, I love looking through Google Search Console, but it's not the first step. I still navigate the website first, understand it a bit, soak it in, and then I contrast what I see as a user with Google Search Console data. If it's not done yet, most of the time it isn't, I verify every single property separately. So domain properties are great, love them. I think it's a huge advancement for global outlook. And now the next step is to have, again, if you have one single domain and different subfolders, which is a very common setup for many websites, verifying every single subfolder separately in Google Search Console. So you have a property per market, essentially. And then you split that view, you start gathering data separately. So the day you need it and you're going to audit one single subfolder because there is weird issue with indexing just there, you already have the data waiting for you. That's typically my first step. And so it's very interesting because in Google Search Console, you can verify up to 2,000 properties in one single account. And which means you essentially can create super granular reporting for yourself. So it's not just the country folders. You can actually go for main content types, main product types. If your website is really big, you just want to segment it as much as you can. And this way you avoid the limitations that Google Search Console comes with, because you are surpassing that. You already have that first layer of filtering down for you, and then you can go deeper when you need to. So I really recommend that as one of the first steps. And that is a huge investment because typically a month to 3 months later, there is a situation that requires this level of granularity, and I already have it because I've set it up on time. So I do recommend it to everyone.
Would you recommend it to anybody who is not also doing international SEO, I guess?
Actually, yeah. There is no limitation for you to create Search Console. And only when you need it, you'll see how useful it is. You might never need it. You might never have issues that require that much granularity. But it's better to be safe than sorry, always. And of course, Google Search Console data only flows in when it's verified, right? So as soon as you do it, that's when the data comes in. So yeah, I do recommend it. So yeah, any content structure. So say you have a blog that's a separate folder, go verify that separately. If you have products divided into categories, maybe not every single category, but the top categories that you are actually putting your focus onto, just having that data in a separate way already changes your mindset towards how you diagnose this specific folder, how you check the indexing levels, how you check the performance, and it's making reporting so much easier and strategic, really.
So is it difference when you go into Google Search Console and you can actually filter by a folder and particular? So is this setup what you're recommending is different from that? It gives you more data, or exactly what difference does it make?
Right. So the difference is With Google Search Console, if you just use the web interface, your
Right.
limitation is 1,000 rows. So it's 1,000 URLs, 1,000 keywords, or queries, to be specific. If you divide it into the subgroups and you have it on the property level, you'll have 1,000 per each single country.
Wow.
For a small website, it might not be a big difference. But if you work on a multilingual website with 16 languages, which is one of my clients, and they have a lot of user-generated content, so it's hundreds of thousands of pages per every market, you really want that granularity.
Okay.
That's the
Absolutely.
difference. Yeah.
Absolutely. Now, let's get a little tactical. Industry survey shows 93% of the SEO uses Google Search Console, more than 80% uses Screaming Frog. But for international SEO, specifically across multiple market and search engine, what's in your personal tech stack that most people don't know about?
Oh, I think people know about one thing that they just are too lazy to use, and it's being webmasters. I think everyone has heard of it, but people have never really took that extra step to verify yourself. And it's dead easy because, big people are smart. They've allowed you to log in with your Google account and literally import all the properties you are verified for in your Google Search Console. You can import that same verification method and get verified straight away with Bing Webmasters, which means it takes a few clicks. You do it once. Again, in the beginning of your project is best time, but it's never too late to do things right. So if you've not done it yet, I invite every listener, go to Bing Webmasters, log in for your Google account, import everything, and you'll be really interested to know that Bing Webmaster has got nice level of detail as it comes to technical SEO. And technically, Bing robots, they don't read data that differently from Google. So it's not that you will completely have to change the set of recommendations for a client, but there will be small differences and also differences in how they process the website data, because the fact that they crawl something doesn't mean they're going to index it the same way as Google did, because their threshold for indexing is just different, right? So it's really interesting to contrast these two sources. And there's still markets where Bing is quite a big chunk of traffic. And there are also industries with more Bing representations than the others, because there are certain age groups and business profile people that just simply have Bing set as a default browser. Edge as a default browser and Bing as a search engine. And they keep using that. And, there is traffic coming from that. So you want to leverage it to your maximum. So, yeah, I do recommend Bing Webmaster Tools as a next layer of granular data for your website.
Right. That actually, I'll be guilty as charged. I myself not use Bing that much, so I'll be honest. Right. But I think most of we people are like that. But definitely after this podcast, I will definitely do it.
Well, one thing that Bing didn't do very well, I have to complain. Maybe someone from Bing listens and they can fix that. On the UX level, for them, the clicks and impressions are opposite colors. So the clicks are purple and impressions are blue. All the way around in Google Search Console always messes with my brain, always makes it difficult to grasp the data. I don't know if they did it on purpose, but absolutely horrible. So be aware that there are some differences in reporting that you have to be aware of to kind of get used to and get into it. But then, you import the data, you visualize it the way you want, and then it's all better.
Okay. Now, so how do you handle measurements when you are tracking performance across 10 plus countries?
So that's when having a really good SEO tool stack comes in handy. Some of my clients use SC ranking just as a cheap, but really, not cheap, affordable solution. Just for tracking keywords, really. They don't do much else there. There's more parts of that tool, of course, but it's just the simple way. Then if you go to Semrush or Ahrefs, I personally use Semrush for most of my projects. You simply also make sure you set up your tracking correctly. And that comes with the whole process, because you've done your keyword research separately for every market you are targeting, which means you have separate list of keywords to track. You set up separate location tracking based on your project, and you're basically done. And what's really helpful in this case Be selective. Don't track thousands of keywords because you're never going to make any sense of the data. So you have to be, always be selective in SEO. I always recommend people are very, very strict with what they target and what they measure, because otherwise you're drowning in data. But in international SEO, it's ever so important, just because there's more of it, right? So you have to be more selective even. And what else? Not every single project requires every single market to be tracked. Because again, if it's a global website that tries to target everyone on the internet, you're not going to track 200 countries, right? Then you go per priority. So you agree with the client. Okay, which are the top 5 markets you really want to see the difference happen? Doesn't mean your top clients, your top markets. Because the client tells you, look, I'm doing so well in the US. Let's track it, but I don't have to worry about it. But I want to make a difference in this market we just entered, right? So you also align priorities, and this way reduce the amount of data you have to analyze on a regular basis, because you're analyzing what's important.
Okay, fair enough. Now, you have also talked about before about avoiding copy paste localization. So what does good localization actually looks like?
In a perfect world, which doesn't often exist, but I always present my clients with all the options, and when we go for what's feasible in their case, in the perfect world, you have centralized content creation, one core language that you base your communication on, usually English for one reason or another, but it doesn't have to be, right? It depends on where company is from and where they produce the core messaging. Then there would be a translation and localization service on top of it. And then there is an SEO specialist that is a native speaker from the market and the language that we are targeting, that give the text the final touches. And they do the keyword research, and then they implement the keywords in a way that makes sense. Now, the SEO specialist can come in the beginning or in the end of that process. So they can either tailor the finalized text to what's the SEO value from that market, or they can already brief the translation process with keywords that have been chosen and what phrasing to use to make it perfect. In some perfect cases, the translation agency is also an SEO agency, so they combine that workflow together. In others, I come in the end of that process before the content is published. I give it the last touch, and my freelancers I brief in the given languages, also give the final touches. So it's pitch perfect for that market. And there's someone who's from there reviewing it really well.
Now, so in terms of translation, you said you have local translators. So when with the AI, invent of AI, are customers not pushing back to get the translation done with AI?
Very interesting question. I thought that would be the case. So I collaborate with 2 translation agencies that sometimes have specific international SEO issues, and they come to me for that assessment. And they both of the big agencies told me, since AI rolled out, they are seeing record high amount of requests for translator made by humans, because it feels like the quality is ever so important. And AI hallucinates. It can get better and better. It can be improved and improved, but it's never zero. The hallucination is built in how the models work. So they really start to understand, the clients start to understand the value of perfection in the translation and human eye. And some translation agencies are using AI, but with human supervision. So they are smart about how they make the process happen without losing the quality. And I think that's the way to go. If you are a serious brand, you can't afford risking odd translation or weird prompt just showing up in your screen instead of the text you wanted because someone copied and pasted the translation, right?
Right. No, I have my friends in translation agency, and they've seen that actually the business have boomed after the AI. So there are a lot of people now do it human. I agree with that.
Quality is so important now, and it always will be more important, I think, because we will have so much blab, so much fluff everywhere. We're gonna want the quality more and more. Even as users, we're gonna value it more, I think.
Yeah, because a lot of translation agencies owners thought that with AI their business might shut down, but it's the contrary is actually increasing, right?
That's super interesting to me.
Yes. Now, how do cultural nuisance impact keyword research, SERP intent, and competitor analysis?
Yeah, that's an interesting one. Recent example that comes to mind, just because I am learning Chinese very, very keenly. You know, I wanna get to a decent level in a couple of years. Things that you could think are obvious, because in all the other languages I speak, black tea is just black tea. But in Chinese, black tea is red, because they don't look at the color of the bag and the leaves. They look at the color of the actual infused drink, right?
Right.
So you might think, of course, black tea is black tea, and it's not. And they're like, what's black tea? Of course, it's red. And there's millions of tiny examples like this. Most of them are kind of famous enough for usual translators or even for AI translation to pick up.
Right.
There's always this gap where something is not exactly explained the way, or means something new, especially with the new terms that come up all the time. Because in modern industries and modern sciences, there's always new wording and new ways of phrasing things, because they've just been invented or just been framed as a new solution to something. And I think it's so important to stay on top of that, and actually someone who specializes not just in the language and the market, but also in the industry we're working on. That's just dream come true, because there might be cases where this phrasing makes a huge difference. And especially, and that's my case, most of my clients are B2B, and they solve very specific problems in very specific industries, and they speak to very specific target groups. May it be engineers or medical professionals, people who do research. And that's where this cultural nuance of how something is said in that language, in that industry, is crucial. Because if you misphrase something, you obviously are not the expert in the field, and they're not going to trust their brand anymore. So the thresholds for quality is just so much higher with B2B specific solutions that few people know about and understand.
Right. Now, if a brand wants to enter 5 new markets, what are the signs they are actually ready versus when they are rushing into it?
Oh, there's always signs. Definitely decision making on markets to enter. So there's one service I've sold a couple of times, which I call basically SEO market research, which is using SEO data to tell them what markets that they are considering actually worth considering, what's the competition level, how mature the market is for their industry, and how many people search, and are they finding what they're looking for, what's the difficulty to rank in that given market. I don't say they have to come through me to get that service. They might do it internally. They might have different way of doing market research. But I think some consideration or where we are entering and why is absolutely the first step. And saying, let's go to Poland, right? With no background on why and how. Oh, that usually means a disaster. Yeah.
All right. So let's next move to our next segment, which is consulting. Of course, you are consulting in 2026 AI clients. Of course, how can we not talk about AI with any of my podcasts? So my first question is, you have been doing this for more than 10 years, right? Now, tell me about a failure. What's a strategy you were confident about that completely bombed? And more importantly, what did it teach you that you couldn't have learned any other way?
Oh, tough questions, but I like that. I think when you're young and you're keen and you're starting up, you want to please your clients, you say yes to almost every request. And then with age and failures, you learn that the more you say yes to things you can do, the more you're going to fail. And essentially, by wanting to make everyone happy, you're going to make clients very unhappy, because you said yes to projects that were not supposed to be your expertise in the first place. And I also think that early days in SEO, like 10 years ago, you would do a bit of CRO, you would do a bit of UX, you would do a bit of analytics, because SEO was a mix of all. But now, today, there's so many great specialists. Why would you overstep on UX when you are not a UX specialist? Why would you overstep at CRO when there's better people who actually have skills and tools needed to do a successful CRO campaign, right? So my take now is, after failing multiple times and saying yes to big analytics audits and tag manager implementations and creating Looker Studio dashboards, I realized I'm wasting hours and hours on the results that's not optimal, and client isn't happy, right? So now I'm really sticking to my lane, and I don't say I don't try to learn a bit about this and that, because it's always great, but I'm not selling it as a specialist, and I'm not trying to charge real money for something I'm not really good at. And I think that was my biggest learning. Yeah.
Okay. Now, you've been critical of geo practitioners, and I mean, we all are. So, who you have said you are just rebranding spam tactics from 15 years ago, right? So now, but AI-driven search is real, of course. Perplexity, ChatGPT, Gemini, and Google AI overviews. How should SEO consultants generally adapt without failing into the gimmicks? And what's actually the honest path forward?
Oh yeah, this is a true internal conflict I have, because more and more leads approach me and ask me about geo services,
Right.
and I keep saying, look, I'm not selling something new when I'm doing still the same old thing. I don't think it's fair to reframe it and charge extra. But yet we are part of a system where clients come and they have needs. So
Right.
just dismissing everyone asking for geo, not sure if it's a futuristic approach. I don't think it's gonna stay long term. So I think first there's an education part. So every current client that I already have trust with and we've built rapport, I'm gonna always tell them, I'm not gonna tell you to do something different while we still have to keep doing the same great thing we've been doing. It still works.
Right.
However, what I really like, and this is a new framing that kind of changed my mindset a bit, it's geo is not different tactics than SEO. It's the same tactics. The strategy is different. And it's really, for me, is the good explanation. So I might not change the way I improve content or the way I build links. I still need all of those things. But I might change the way I approach priorities, or I approach the data I have, because obviously if I see that with SEO I'm ranking first, but I'm not showing any AI overviews at all for any of my top queries, I might rethink how I approach that optimization long term, right? So yeah, tactics don't change, it's the strategy that changes, and I think that explains it really well.
Okay. Now, and how do you think client expectations are changing in the AI-powered era of marketing and search? Are they having more expectations or different set of expectations?
So I think clients have this disconnect with where they want to be and the next thing they heard about. Maybe they subscribe to this newsletter and they're like, oh, I have to do AI optimization now.
Shiny objects.
Exactly, but they're still stuck in not fixing basic navigational issues, and there's so many errors on the basic surface of the website. So I think this could be an opportunity to prioritize all issues as framing them as even more important, or as important, or critical for this new shiny object that could potentially weigh. I think clients always want to feel they're going further and further, and even if they're stuck with a backlog from 6 months ago, they still want you to keep adding new proposed actions, right? So it's a challenge for any consultant to not sell, fake idea that we are doing new thing, but take advantage of the new energy that comes with it and reframe what's been always needed and maybe give it more priority now. Also, speaking to more senior stakeholders, I think anyone who works as a consultant for a big organization has a chance now to essentially explain what's happening in the SEO and AI landscape to people who are usually not so involved with SEO operations. And this way, maybe start a dialogue on a higher level than usual, just to be part of that bigger conversation. Because AI optimization is not just SEO. It's way more. It's brand, it's PR, it's all those activities that typically lay higher in the organization. So maybe that's our also opportunity to intersect some of that conversation and be part of it. And this way, put the SEO and AI goals forward in different disciplines.
Okay, and And what skills will consultants need in 2026 that weren't important before?
So I think so my background is not just consulting. In the past, I was always agency side. So I've been a consultant for the last 2-3 years full time. And previous to that, I was head of SEO, SEO managers, SEO specialist, always in agency level. And the agency model used to be very much templates, scaling up, processes, having one great approach and then multiplying it and scaling it as much as possible, right? That's not going to cut it anymore. I think if you want to retain your clients and keep them happy, you need to put face to anything you say and you do. So I think the future of consulting is the interaction, because clients are already also, tired of the whole AI. They often use it, or successfully or not, in their own organizations, and it doesn't have to be SEO that they do it, use it for, right? That's not SEO they do with AI. They might be doing it for any other internal activity, but we essentially know that they can't just stay in AI 8 hours a day, every day, and speaking to you and having you explain and simplify what's happening and having that human connection. They're going to value it more and more. So they will be happy to pay you big money for you to accompany them. So you might use AI for your own benefit, and you might make your tasks faster and smoother and quicker and whatever. But the fact you're gonna present them in a human way will make a huge difference. That's my take on it.
Right. And for consultants listening, what's the best way to keep clients happy, retained, and confident even when the landscape is shifting so fast?
Ask for feedback. I think people don't ask about feedback often enough. And this is hard when you're on your own. It's easier to do when it's several people in your organization, because if it's several of you, you can ask the other person to ask for feedback. So there is like a, let's say, independent question. It's not, they don't have to face you to tell you maybe that they are not happy, right? So if you have someone else that could ask for feedback in your name, and this way you avoid, clients refraining from saying what they really think, that's better. But don't also, sometimes it's okay to ask for feedback face to face, and that's fine. But written feedback is usually a better tool, just to have more honest and toned down approach, because they're gonna think about it. And if they're happy, they're gonna tell you they're happy. Like, they're not gonna make up things to improve if there are none. But there's usually always something small to improve. And the more often you ask, more quickly you will catch it and you can improve that. But that goes with a price. You have to be ready to receive that feedback. And it's not always sweet, right? And not every client will be happy with what you do, even if you've done a good job. That's fine. They expected something else. So the feedback is not always how to change what you do, and maybe how to communicate what you do better, right? So also take the feedback and look around it and understand it and what really stands behind that, because you don't have to take it on face value. You might actually have to analyze why the feedback came to you this way in the first place. I think that's so important, not just for consultants. Anyone always ask for feedback.
I think it's for an SEO agency also, it's a feedback, and just something like Net Promoter Score, NPS, is also one way of, I think once a quarter is at least minimum I would recommend, maybe more than that.
And I also think many agencies and consultants confuse SEO results with client satisfaction. And it's not the same thing. You can have the happiest clients whose traffic is dropping, and they're still happy because they know why. Because it's not always in your hands as an external consultant to fix the issues. The other month, I was migrating a website that reduced from 5 languages to 2, just because the product team wasn't happy with automated translations. They had no time or resources to review it with native speakers. So the last minute choice was, let's cut the languages we cannot verify, because we don't want the internet to see translations we're not standing behind. So we lost 3 out of 5 languages. So the traffic cut in half overnight. And there's nothing to redirect it to. There is no relevant content, because content in that language is just not there anymore. So the traffic dropped. Client happy, because first they understood what's happening, what's going to happen and why before it happened. And 2, I took the time and explained that impact to the product team. So it's like, okay, you have to be aware, this is what's going to happen. If that's the business decision, it's not an SEO decision, I get that, but you have to understand we're going to lose a lot of traffic. Are you okay with that? And they said yes. So they weren't surprised when it happened, right? So it's the communication made it all possible to have a happy client.
Right. I would think that's a very good advice, because most of the consultants go into a reporting mode where they just feel like report and collect the check, report and collect the check. And
Absolutely.
the feedback is, I agree with that. Okay, and all right, let's close with a quick fire round. And so you are ready?
Always ready.
Okay. One market that surprises you every time you work in it.
China.
I was expecting that.
Easy.
Yeah. One place you love traveling for work.
Oh, Thailand.
Wow. Okay. That's my favorite as well. Okay. One SEO concept people often overcomplicate.
hreflang.
I agree with that. You know, when it comes to hreflang, I just simply say open Apple and do whatever they are doing. That's the perfect way. Don't confuse, overdo. Just say copy the hreflang, change everything. Don't think anything else. My simple.
I love Apple.com as a great example for international SEO. They've really done a good job. I would love to meet a person who's doing SEO for Apple, because honestly, you know, hats off.
Yes. So whenever my team confuses with hreflang and they confuse me, I say go look at their source code. Don't talk to me. I'll confuse myself and you as well. True. Now, coffee, tea, or matcha?
Coffee.
Okay. Okay. Natalia, this was such a fun and insightful conversation. Of course, we get to know so much about China and how the websites are getting irrelevant. Maybe it's a sign to come where we think the agentic web is coming, where websites are actually going to become meaningless. So maybe it's a hint which we can pick from China, how this thing will come. But I won't be surprised if ChatGPT incorporates some of those things into itself.
100%. And I really hope I motivated some of the people who already speak multiple languages, have the interest in the world, to maybe use their SEO knowledge and specialize in international, because it's going to come to them naturally. So yeah, good luck to anyone who wants to do that. And if you have any questions or need some guidance, always please reach out to me, because I think not enough people do international SEO. There should be more of us.
Right. Yes, absolutely. I mean, you are my 82nd podcast, and I just had to. You are my second international SEOs. I really myself have not come across.
More to come.
Yeah, hopefully, yes. And now, for everyone listening, we'll link to Natalia's LinkedIn, talk, and resources in the show notes. And if you enjoyed this conversation, don't forget to subscribe, share the episode, and leave a review. And thanks for tuning in. And until next time, keep learning, keep experimenting, and keep building global impact. And Natalia, once again, thank you for giving me your time.
Thank you.